We live in the loudest era in human history, a world that demands your attention every second, where your value is measured by how much you share and your focus is shattered by 1,000 notifications. You feel exhausted, not because you're working too hard, but because you are leaking power. Every time you talk about your goals, every time you scroll for motivation, every time you react to the noise, you lose a piece of yourself. 800 years ago, there was an elite brotherhood that knew a secret we've forgotten. They were the Teutonic Knights, the Iron Monks. They were the most feared heavy cavalry in Europe, but their greatest battles weren't fought with steel. They were fought in absolute, crushing silence. While modern men are desperate to be noticed, these warriors were sworn to be invisible behind their vows. They didn't seek inspiration. They built a mental fortress that no storm and no enemy could breach. If you feel distracted, aimless, or weak, it's because your gates are wide open. Today, we are entering the cloister. I'm going to show you the Iron Monk Protocol, the 5 brutal laws of silence and discipline that will turn your mind into a castle capable of surviving a perpetual siege. Welcome to Hypothetics. Let's shut the gates. Path 1. The Law of the Mental Cloister. Silence is the shield of the fortress. From the rule of the Teutonic Order. For the Teutonic Knight, the cloister was more than just a stone building. It was a psychological boundary that separated the sacred from the profane. Behind those walls, the chaos of the outside world, the politics, the rumors, and the petty distractions of the peasantry was strictly forbidden. The Iron Monks understood that the mind is like a castle. If the gates are always open, it isn't a fortress, it's a thoroughfare. By limiting who and what could enter their space, they preserved their mana for the only 2 things that mattered: their spiritual devotion and their lethal efficiency on the battlefield. They didn't just live in a cloister, they became one. In your normal day world, you are living in a fortress with no gates. You are accessible to everyone at every hour for any reason. Your phone is a direct breach in your mental walls, allowing the opinions of strangers, the stress of the news, and the pings of low-value notifications to flood your psyche before you've even had your first cup of coffee. You feel scattered and weak because you have allowed your mental cloister to be demolished. If the entire world has a key to your mind, you aren't the commander of your life. You are a servant to the noise. You are leaking power because you refuse to build a wall. True discipline begins with a lockout. You must create your own mental cloister, a dedicated time or space where the modern world is physically and digitally barred from entry. This isn't about being antisocial. It's about being pro-sovereignty. When you turn off the notifications, when you close the door, and when you stop reacting to the noise, you are rebuilding the gates of your fortress. You don't need more motivation. You need more solitude. Only in the silence of the cloister can you hear your own intuition and sharpen your intent. Rule number 1. If you want to be a master of your mission, you must first be the gatekeeper of your mind. Guard the gate or lose the castle. Path 2. The Law of the Vow of Silence. Silence is the mother of all virtues, and the tongue is the enemy of the heart. From the rule of the Teutonic Order, for the Iron Monk, speech was a resource, not a right. In the long winters of the Baltic, the knights lived under a strict code of silence. They understood that every idle word spoken was a leak in their spiritual armor. They didn't engage in gossip, they didn't complain about the cold, and they never bragged about their victories. When they did speak, their words were like iron strikes, precise, rare, and heavy with intent. By keeping their mouths shut, they forced their internal pressure to build, turning that silent energy into a devastating force on the battlefield. They knew that a man who can control his tongue can control his destiny. In the modern world, we are suffering from goal leakage. We have been told to share our journey and stay accountable by telling everyone our plans. But psychology tells us the opposite. When you announce your goals to the world, your brain receives a premature reward. It releases the same dopamine you would get from actually achieving the goal, making you feel satisfied before you've even started the work. You talk about the business, you post about the workout, and you share the vision, and then you lose the hunger to actually do it. You are spending your success on social media likes instead of investing it in the grind. You are all roar and no bite. The Iron Monk protocol requires you to kill the announcement. Stop telling people what you are going to do and start showing them what you did. When you move in total silence, you retain the manic energy of your ambition. You don't waste it on validation from people who haven't earned the right to hear your plans. This silence creates a vacuum that only action can fill. If you want to achieve something great, you must be willing to be misunderstood, ignored, and invisible until the work is finished. Rule number 2, move in the shadows of silence. Let your results be the first time the world hears your voice. Path 3, the law of the frozen forest. The knight shall not fear the frost, for the fire of his mission burns from within, derived from the spirit of the Northern Crusades. The Teutonic Knights did not fight in the sun-drenched plains of the south. They campaigned in the sub-zero impenetrable forests of the Baltic North. To these iron monks, weather was never an excuse, it was a test. They did not wait for the spring thaw to march, nor did they retreat when the storms turned the earth into jagged ice. They understood that if you only fight when the sun is shining, you are at the mercy of the seasons. By training their bodies to function in the frozen forest, they became masters of the environment that broke every other army. Their discipline wasn't fueled by the warmth of the sun, but by the internal furnace of their vow. In your world, the frost is your lack of motivation. We have become a culture of fair-weather warriors. We wait for the perfect mood, the right amount of sleep, or the spark of inspiration before we sit down to do the work. You tell yourself you'll start the project when you feel ready, or you'll hit the gym when the vibes are right. But the desert of the soul and the frozen forest of reality doesn't care about your feelings. While you are waiting for the warmth of motivation to find you, the man who has mastered the frost is already miles ahead. Motivation is a luxury for the amateur. Discipline is the necessity of the professional. The Iron Monk Protocol demands that you stop negotiating with the temperature of your environment. You must learn to work when you are cold, tired, and uninspired. True strength is the ability to maintain your pace when the mood has long since left you. When you perform in the middle of your own internal winter, you are building a version of yourself that is immune to external circumstances. You are no longer a slave to the weather of your emotions. If you only move when you feel like it, you aren't a warrior. You're a leaf in the wind. Rule number 3, don't wait for the fire. Be the fire. Perform in the frost or be buried by it. Path 4, the law of the uniform soul. The night is nothing, the order is everything, derived from the statutes of the Teutonic Order. The Teutonic Knight didn't ride into battle with a personal coat of arms or a colorful family banner. He wore a plain white surcoat with a simple, stark black cross. In a world of noble vanity, where men fought for their individual names to be sung by poets, the Iron Monk was anonymous. He was stripped of his title, his family pride, and his ego. He wasn't an individual hero. He was a single cell in a massive, unyielding organism. By killing the I, he became part of a we that was invincible. He understood that when you no longer care about who gets the credit, you become a force that cannot be distracted or discouraged. We live in the era of the main character syndrome. We are obsessed with building our personal brands, our curated aesthetics, and our public identities before we've actually achieved anything of substance. We want the world to recognize our uniqueness before we've mastered a single skill. This egocentrism is a heavy chain. Every time you worry about how you look, how you're being perceived, or why you aren't getting enough likes, you are diverting energy away from the actual mission. Your ego is a parasite that eats your productivity. You are so busy trying to be someone that you've forgotten how to do something. The Iron Monk protocol requires a death of the ego. You must be willing to be a uniform soul, to be the person who does the dirty, unglamorous work without needing a spotlight. When you detach your identity from the results and focus entirely on the quality of the output, you gain a terrifying level of focus. You don't get hurt by criticism, and you don't get lazy from praise, because neither of those things belongs to you. They belong to the work. Stop trying to stand out and start trying to be the most reliable, effective part of the machine. Rule number 4, kill the me to save the mission. Anonymity is power. Path 5, the law of the perpetual siege. A wall is only as strong as the patience of the man behind it. Traditional Teutonic military maxim. The Teutonic Knights were the master architects of the eternal fortress. They didn't build simple wooden outposts. They constructed massive, self-sufficient brick giants like Malbork Castle, structures designed to withstand isolation and enemy sieges that could last for years. When an Iron Monk entered a fortress, he didn't ask when he would be relieved or when the battle would end. He accepted that the siege was his permanent reality. He had the food, the faith, and the fortitude to wait out any storm. He didn't plan for a quick victory. He planned for indefinite endurance. In your life, you're likely suffering from the sprint fallacy. You approach your goals like a 100-meter dash, expecting a massive reward within 30 days. When the results don't come immediately, or when life sieges you with unexpected bills, health issues, or family stress, you abandon the walls. You think the struggle means you're losing, when in reality, the struggle is just the standard operating environment for anyone doing something great. Most people fail not because they weren't strong enough to fight, but because they weren't patient enough to endure. The Iron Monk protocol requires you to shift from a skirmish mindset to a siege mindset. You must build a life and a routine that you can maintain for a decade, not just a week. This means prioritizing sustainability over intensity. If your success depends on everything going perfectly right this month, you haven't built a fortress, you built a tent. You must embrace the long, quiet grind and find peace in the repetition of the wall. Stop looking for the exit and start mastering the interior of your castle. Rule number 5. The war isn't won by the fastest. It's won by the last man standing on the ramparts. Expect no relief. Become the relief. The world is loud because it is hollow. A bell makes the most noise when it's empty. But a fortress is silent because it is full. It is full of discipline, full of intent, and full of the power that most people leak away through their screens and their mouths every single day. You now have the Iron Monk Protocol. The question isn't whether these ancient laws work. It's whether you have the courage to be boring enough to follow them. The modern world will tell you that you're missing out. The Iron Monk knows better. He knows that motivation is a ghost, but the fortress is real. Your first order. Don't leave this video and immediately start talking about what you learned. That would be a breach of the vow. Instead, shut the gates. Turn off your notifications for the next 4 hours. Enter the cloister. Do the hardest thing on your to-do list in absolute silence. Expect no relief. Don't look for a pat on the back. The work is its own reward. This is hypothetics. The siege has begun. Stand your ground. Most warriors throughout history fought to be seen. They wore bright armor, shouting their names into the wind. But in the heart of the Sahara, the most unforgiving desert on earth, there is a tribe of ghosts who chose a different path, the Tuareg, known as the Blue Men because the indigo dye of their veils eventually stains their very skin. But here's the mystery. Why would a warrior wrap his face so tightly that only his eyes remain? It isn't just a shield against the sand. For the Tuareg, the Tagelmust veil is a boundary for the soul. We live in an age that demands you share every thought, be in every room, and react to every notification. We are emotionally naked, and it's draining our power. We feel burnt out, not because we're working too hard, but because we have no boundaries. We are leaking energy into a digital desert. The Blue Men don't just survive the Sahara. They thrive in it by mastering the Asuf, the silence of the void. They know that when you guard your energy and limit what you give to the world, you become untouchable. Today, we're breaking down the Tuareg's warrior code of scarcity. I'm going to show you how to build a modern iron mind by doing the one thing the modern world fears most, closing the veil. Welcome to Hypothetics. Let's find your oasis. The 5 paths of the Blue Nomad Path. 1. The path of the living grave. Houses are the graves of the living. Tuareg proverb. In the heart of the Sahara, a house isn't a sanctuary, it's a target. To the Blue Nomad, a permanent structure is simply a place where a man goes to be forgotten by the wind. They carry a philosophy that cuts directly through our modern obsession with settling down and finding comfort. When the nomad passes a crumbling stone hut in the middle of the dunes, he doesn't see a shelter from the heat. He sees a prison for the spirit. He knows that walls don't just keep the storm out, they keep the soul in. He turns his back on the stone and walks into the infinite shifting horizon, because in the desert, survival is synonymous with movement. To stay still is to invite the sand to claim you. We don't live in the desert, but we are being buried just the same. We spend our lives building houses out of our rigid routines, our safe jobs, and our comfortable habits. We call it stability, but the nomad calls it a funeral. You feel burned out and unmotivated not because you're doing too much, but because you've stayed in the same mental room for too long. Your walls have become so thick that you can no longer see the opportunities waiting in the distance. Comfort isn't the reward for your hard work. It's the rust that eats your ambition. The moment you stop growing, you start decaying. Your world is full of these living graves, places where good enough went to die. The nomad's code demands a different path. Today, you must identify the one area of your life where you become too comfortable and too still. Step out of that routine. Abandon the walls of your own making. If you want to feel the fire of life again, you have to stop living in a grave. Rule number 1, move or be buried. Path 2, the path of lethal excess. That which you do not need will kill you. Tuareg proverb. The blue nomad stands over his camel, preparing for a journey across 1,000 miles of nothingness. He picks up a heavy, ornate silver bowl, a relic of a life left behind. It's beautiful, it's valuable, and it is heavy. Without a word, he drops it into the sand. To a traveler in the Sahara, wealth that you cannot carry is not an asset. It is an anchor. In the desert, every extra pound of weight is a drop of sweat you can't afford to lose. The nomad knows that the more you own, the more you are owned by the fear of losing it. He travels light, not because he is poor, but because he is fast. Your desert isn't made of sand, but it is just as deadly. It's a digital wasteland of lethal excess. You're carrying 1,000 friends you don't know, 50 open browser tabs you'll never read, and a dozen half-hearted goals that you'll never finish. We are the most connected and resourced generation in history, yet we are paralyzed. This mental clutter is the extra weight that is killing your momentum. You feel heavy, sluggish, and distracted because you refuse to drop the things that no longer serve your mission. You are trying to cross the desert with a backpack full of stones, wondering why you're exhausted before noon. Efficiency is the byproduct of elimination. To the Tuareg, survival isn't about what you can add to your life. It's about what you have the courage to subtract. If a habit, a relationship, or a piece of technology isn't providing the water you need to reach your oasis, it is a liability. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you are saying no to your own survival. Look at your life through the eyes of the nomad. What are you carrying just for the sake of appearances? What are you holding on to out of habit? Drop it in the sand. Be lean. Be fast. If it doesn't help you survive the heat, it has to go. Rule number 2, travel light or die heavy. Path 3, the path of blind action. Better to walk without knowing where than to sit doing nothing. Tuareg proverb. The horizon is vanishing. A sandstorm, a wall of dust and wind is erasing the landmarks the nomad uses to navigate. He has no map, no compass, and the stars are hidden behind a veil of grit. In this moment, Most would crouch down and wait for the storm to pass, but in the deep Sahara, that is a death sentence. To stay still is to let the dunes bury you while you're still breathing. The blue nomad chooses a direction and starts walking. He doesn't know if the oasis is 5 miles or 50 miles away, but he knows one thing with absolute certainty. Direction is a gift given only to those who are already moving. In your life, this storm is called analysis paralysis. You're waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect degree, or the perfect moment to start your business, your fitness journey, or your creative project. You sit in your room, staring at the dust, hoping for a sign that never comes. While you wait, the sand is rising. The modern world has taught us that we need to see the finish line before we take the first step, but the desert doesn't work that way. Clarity isn't found in a book or a brainstorm session. Clarity is a reward for courage. The most successful people aren't those with the best plans. They are those with the best momentum. When you move, the world reacts. New people appear, new information is revealed, and the path begins to form under your feet. You don't find the path by looking for it. You find it by walking until it manifests. If you are paralyzed by doubt, stop thinking and start stepping. It is better to make a mistake at a high speed than to be perfect while standing still. Action is the only cure for the storm. Rule number 3, movement creates the map. Path 4, the shifting rhythm. When the music changes, the rhythm of the dance must change. Tuareg proverb. The wind shift is subtle at first, a slight cooling of the air, a change in the scent of the dust. The blue nomad doesn't fight it. He doesn't complain that the wind was supposed to blow from the east, nor does he try to walk against the gale to prove his strength. He simply adjusts. He shifts his weight, changes the wrap of his veil, and alters his trajectory. He knows that the desert is an ever-changing masterpiece of chaos. To the nomad, loyalty to a dead strategy isn't honor, it's suicide. He dances with the desert because he knows he cannot control the band. Most of us are still trying to dance to a song that ended years ago. We cling to the way things used to be in our careers, our relationships, and our self-image. You might be holding on to a business model that worked years ago, or a version of yourself that existed before a major life setback. When the world changes, when the market shifts, when a relationship fails, or when your health takes a turn, your ego tells you to dig in your heels. It tells you that changing is quitting. But the desert teaches us that the only thing that doesn't change is a corpse. Rigidity is the ultimate weakness. In the modern world, your ability to pivot is more valuable than your ability to plan. If you feel frustrated and out of sync with your life, it's likely because you are still using an old rhythm for a new reality. The music has changed, but you're still doing the same steps. True warrior discipline isn't about stubbornness, it's about fluid adaptation. You must be willing to burn your old blueprints the moment the terrain shifts. Stop arguing with the wind and start adjusting your sails. Rule number 4, adapt or be erased. Path 5, the 3 T's of reality. The first T is bitter like death. The second is sweet like life. The third is soft like love. Tuareg proverb. The day is over. The blue nomad sits by a small fire of desert brush, performing the ritual of the 3 T's. He pours the first cup. Dark, concentrated, and searingly bitter. He drinks it slowly, without a grimace. He doesn't rush to the second pot or add sugar to mask the taste. He knows that the tea is a mirror of the journey itself. You cannot truly enjoy the coolness of the night until you have endured the heat of the day. For the Tuareg, the sequence is sacred. You cannot skip the bitterness and expect the sweetness to have any meaning. In our modern world, we are addicted to the tea of life and the tea of love, but we are terrified of the tea of death. We want the successful business without the years of failure. We want the perfect physique without the grueling mornings in the gym. We want the reward without the ritual. This desire for instant sweetness is why so many people quit the moment things get difficult. They think the bitterness means they are doing something wrong, when in reality, the bitterness is the proof that they are actually on the path. It is the filter that separates the tourists from the warriors. Every great achievement follows this ancient recipe. The bitterness of the start, the confusion, the hard labor, and the sacrifice is what prepares your palate for the success that follows. If you are currently in a season of struggle, stop trying to prematurely sweeten it. Drink the first cup. Accept the hardship as the necessary tax for the life you want to lead. When you stop running from the struggle, it loses its power over you. The nomad doesn't complain about the first cup because he knows the third one is inevitable for those who stay at the fire. Rule number 5, respect the process or lose the reward. The desert does not apologize for the heat, and the wind does not wait for you to be ready. The Tuareg have thrived for centuries in the world's most hostile environment because they stopped trying to control the desert and started mastering themselves. They understood that a warrior's true strength isn't measured by the size of his house or the weight of his gold, but by the lightness of his step and the iron of his boundaries. The modern world is your Sahara. It is a vast, shifting landscape designed to distract you, weigh you down, and bury your ambition under a mountain of digital noise and hollow comfort. But you now carry the code of the blue nomad. You know that movement is life, that excess is lethal, and that clarity is found only through action. You know that when the world shifts, you must shift with it, and that the bitterness of the beginning is the only way to earn the sweetness of the end. Don't leave this video and walk back into your living grave. Close the veil on the distractions that drain your energy. Guard your silence. Drop the weight that is holding you back and take that first blind step into the dunes of your own potential. The oasis isn't a place you find, it's a place you build through discipline and movement. This is Hypothetics. If these ancient laws sparked something in you, subscribe and join the tribe. We are here to bridge the gap between the legends of the past and the warriors of the modern day. Now, leave the hut. Start walking. The desert is waiting. You are a hostage to your own reputation, paralyzed by the fear of what they might think. Every time you speak, you check the digital wind to see if your truth is correct. You are so busy trying to survive socially that you have forgotten how to live authentically. Modern status is a leash. It turns warriors into parrots, guarding a prison cell built by other people's expectations. But 400 years ago, the samurai Yamamoto Tsunetomo found a way out. He taught that a warrior should meditate on his own death every single morning. This wasn't morbid, it was liberation. If you are already dead, you have nothing left to lose. A warrior who enters the battlefield already dead is the most dangerous person on the field. He cannot be intimidated, bribed, or manipulated by fear. He is a ghost, and a ghost doesn't care about your laws, your insults, or your cancellation. To reclaim your power, you must practice social death. Stop protecting your image and become a Ronin, a warrior with no master. You aren't canceled if you don't recognize their authority to judge you. You aren't losing if you stopped playing a rigged game. Today, we die to the performance so we can finally be born into the truth. Welcome back to Hypothetics. This is the Ronin's Ghost. The 15 Laws of the Social Ghost. Quote 1. The way of the warrior is found in death. Yamamoto Tsunetomo. This is the foundation. To the Ronin, death is not the end of life, but the end of fear. When you accept that your social self, your reputation and your status is already dead, you become invincible. You cannot be threatened with a loss you have already accepted. Quote 2. Do nothing which is of no use. Miyamoto Musashi. The crowd spends its life chasing likes and performing for strangers. This is a waste of a warrior's spirit. The ghost cuts through the noise. If an action doesn't serve your internal truth or your survival, discard it. Efficiency is the mark of a free man. Quote 3. I have no master but the truth. Ronin proverb. Most people are looking for a leader to follow or a script to read. The Ronin realizes that any master who can give you a position can also take it away. When you serve only the truth, you are the only one who can fire you. Quote 4. Seek not to follow in the footsteps of men of old. Seek what they sought. Matsuo Basho. Don't just copy the aesthetics of the past. Seek the same fire they had. Modern heretics often just trade one mask for another. The ghost doesn't want a new mask. He wants to see the world with his own eyes, unclouded by the correct opinions of the era. Quote 5. A man who has no reputation to protect is the most dangerous man in the room. Unknown, reputation is a golden shackle. It forces you to behave so you don't lose your standing. The ghost realizes that standing is a ghost itself. Once you stop caring about your image, you are free to say what needs to be said and do what needs to be done. Quote 6. The sword must be more than a tool. It must be an extension of the soul. Samurai wisdom. Your words and your actions are your weapons. In a world of empty words and fake smiles, a single honest statement feels like a blade. Do not swing your truth to be cruel, swing it to be real. A sharp truth is kinder than a dull lie. Quote 7. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world. Miyamoto Musashi. The ego is the part of you that feels canceled. It's the part that gets offended. The ghost minimizes the ego until it is small enough to fit through any needle. When you take yourself less seriously, the world's insults lose their target. They pass right through you. Quote 8. If you are far from the enemy, make him believe you are near. Sun Tzu. The crowd thinks they have you cornered with their labels and their judgments. Let them think they've won. While they are busy celebrating your isolation, you are busy building a reality they cannot touch. Silence is the ghost's greatest strategy. Quote 9. Better to be a dog in peace than a man in chaos. Ancient proverb. The chaos of modern social climbing is a sickness. The Ronin prefers the simplicity of the dog-like life, uncomplicated, honest, and in accord with nature. If humanity means performing in a digital circus, the ghost chooses the barrel of the cynic. Quote 10. Fudoshin, the immovable mind. Martial arts principle. When the crowd screams, the ghost remains still. When the world offers a bribe, the ghost remains still. You are not socially awkward. You are socially unshakable. Your peace is not dependent on the weather of public opinion. Quote 11. The peak of the mountain is narrow. There is no room for the crowd. Warrior lore. Truth is a solo journey. If everyone is agreeing with you, you aren't standing on the peak. You're in the valley. The Ronin accepts the loneliness of the heights because the air there is pure. Isolation is the price of clarity. Quote 12. I am a citizen of the world, but a resident of my own soul. Adapted cynic/stoic. Thought you may walk through their cities and use their apps, but you do not live there. Your true home is your own mind. If you are at peace internally, the external world's cesspools cannot pollute your frequency. Quote 13. A warrior does not seek to be liked. He seeks to be effective. Bushido reflection. Seeking to be liked is a submissive act. It puts the power in the hands of the audience. The ghost doesn't care if the audience claps or hisses. He only cares if his work is honest and his spirit is disciplined. Quote 14. The sun shines on the thief and the priest alike. Stoic wisdom. Nature does not cancel people. The sun doesn't stop shining on you because a crowd on the internet got angry. The ghost aligns himself with the laws of nature, not the laws of the marketplace. Nature's permission is the only one that matters. Quote 15. Die every morning, and you will never fear the sunset. Hagakure philosophy. Every day is a new life. If you practiced social death this morning, then nothing that happens tonight can hurt you. You have already lost everything that wasn't real. What remains is the Ronin. What remains is you. The world wants you to be a parrot. It wants you to be predictable, profitable, and quiet. But the way of the Ronin is different. If you've reached the end of this video, you aren't looking for a vibe. You're looking for a way out of the cage. Leave a comment with the words, "I am the ghost," to let the system know its leashes no longer hold. Stay disciplined. Stay dangerous. This is Hypothetics. You are terrified of being replaceable. You spend every waking second trying to prove that you are unique, that you are a special individual, a main character, whose story is the center of the universe. You want the world to see your face, to know your name, and to acknowledge your specific, one-of-a-kind talent. But this obsession with being special is exactly why you are so fragile. When the special man gets tired, the mission stops. When the hero loses his motivation, the work dies. You are exhausted because you are trying to carry the weight of a god with the shoulders of a man. Every time you fail, you feel like the world is ending because you've made yourself the only thing that matters. You are a single point of failure in your own life. In a world of billions, trying to be unique is a death sentence. It is a fragile, high-maintenance ego trap that leaves you vulnerable to every shift in the wind. 2,500 years ago, in the burning heart of the Achaemenid Empire, they found a better way. They didn't build an army of heroes. They built the Immortals, 10,000 men moving as a single golden shadow across the desert. They wore masks of silk and silver to hide their faces. They wore scale armor that turned them into a sea of metal. But their true power wasn't in their equipment. It was in their math. The number was always 10,000. If a man was cut down, another stepped into his footprint before his blood could soak the sand. To their enemies, it looked like magic. It looked like the same warrior was rising from the dead over and over again. They weren't feared because they were the best individual fighters in the world. They were feared because they were inevitable. If you feel small, if you feel like just a number in a massive, indifferent world, good. You are exactly where you need to be. You have been looking at the number as a weakness, but the number is the greatest weapon ever forged. Welcome back to Hypothetics. Today, we are killing the hero and birthing the constant. We are shutting down the fragile ego and entering the protocol of the eternal line. Stop being the one. Become the 10,000. Path 1. The Law of the Faceless Mask. 10,000 are the Immortals, for their names are not written in sand, but in the heart of the king. Derived from the spirit of the Achaemenid Guard. The Persian immortal did not go into battle to be recognized. He went into battle to be a result. Underneath the intricate silk and silver of his mask, his personal identity was irrelevant. His name didn't matter. His family lineage didn't matter. Even his mood on the day of the battle was never recorded because his mood was not part of the formation. By wearing the mask, he committed to the death of the self. He surrendered his right to be an individual so that he could become a part of something that never dies. He understood that a face can be bruised, a face can show fear, and a face can age, but a mask is eternal. In your world, your face is your greatest liability. You are obsessed with how you feel. You wake up and ask yourself, do I feel motivated today? Do I feel inspired? Am I in the right headspace? By centering your life around your internal weather, you have made your progress a slave to your emotions. You are waiting for the face to smile before you do the work. This is why you are inconsistent. This is why you start 100 projects and finish 0. You are waiting for the hero to show up, but the hero is temperamental. The hero is lazy. The hero is human. The immortal protocol requires you to put on the faceless mask. This isn't about hiding, it's about detaching. When you step into your workspace, when you start the grind, you must leave you at the door. You're no longer a person with opinions, fears, or a social media profile. You are a unit of execution. The mask represents the automation of the soul. It means that whether you are happy, sad, or exhausted, the hand still moves, the words are still written, and the line still advances. You don't need a vibe. You need a system. Rule number 1, stop trying to find yourself and start trying to lose yourself in the repetition. If you want to be inevitable, you must first become invisible. Silence the face and let the work speak. Path 2. The law of the wicker shield. The strength of the wall is not in the wood, but in the weave. Traditional Persian military maxim regarding the sparabara. The Persian immortal did not carry a heavy bronze shield like the Greeks. He carried a spara, a shield made of woven wicker and leather. Individually, a single reed is fragile. It snaps under the slightest pressure. But when 10,000 reeds are woven together with precision, they create a surface that is light, flexible, and capable of absorbing the impact of 1,000 arrows. The Persians understood that true defense isn't about the thickness of the material. It's about the integrity of the connection. They didn't rely on one massive, heavy barrier. They relied on the collective strength of 10,000 tiny interlocking parts. In your normal day world, you are trying to build a fortress out of heavy, unsustainable stones. You look for the big win, the massive life overhaul, or the heroic 12-hour grind that leaves you burnt out by Tuesday. You ignore the light things because they seem insignificant. You think that waking up at the same time, drinking water, or focused work for just 30 minutes doesn't count because it doesn't feel like a battle. But you are wrong. You are trying to carry a shield of lead that you eventually have to drop because it's too heavy to sustain. The Immortal Protocol requires you to master the law of the wicker shield. This means shifting your focus from intensity to architecture. Your life is defended by your habits, not your highlights. A single habit is just a reed, easy to break. But when you weave 10 small, light habits together into a morning or evening weave, you create a psychological defense that is nearly impossible to penetrate. If one reed snaps, if you miss one habit, the shield still holds because the rest of the weave supports the gap. Success is a game of tiny, light fibers woven so tightly that the world can't find a way in. Rule number 2. Stop looking for the heavy blow. Build the weave. Your small daily repetitions are the only thing standing between you and the chaos. Path 3. The law of the eternal replacement. The man is mortal, but the 10,000 are eternal, derived from the historical accounts of the Achaemenid Guard. The greatest psychological weapon of the Persian Empire was not a sword, but a shadow. When the immortals marched into battle, they didn't just fight. They overwhelmed the enemy's spirit through invivitability. If an immortal was cut down by a Greek spear, the man behind him stepped into his footprint before his body even hit the sand. There was no mourning, no gap in the formation, and no pause in the advance. To their enemies, it appeared as if the same warrior was rising from the dead over and over again. They didn't fear the man, they feared the number. They realized that you cannot kill a force that refuses to stay diminished. In your life, you treat failure like a tragedy. When you mess up, when you miss a day of work, or when a project fails, you stop the entire army of your life to mourn. You allow the gap in your line to remain open for weeks while you wallow in guilt or reevaluate your goals. You are waiting for the special hero version of yourself to return from the dead. But the hero isn't coming back, and he doesn't need to. The Immortal Protocol requires you to embrace the law of the eternal replacement. This means you must become your own backup. If yesterday you failed the mission, today you must step into the gap without a second of hesitation. You don't need a ceremony. You don't need an apology. You just need to fill the footprint. You are not a single, fragile point of failure, you are a sequence of 10,000 days. If you fail at 2 p.m., you replace yourself at 2:01 p.m. The number of your discipline must remain constant, regardless of the casualties your ego takes along the way. Rule number 3, the line must hold. If you fall, step back in. Success is not about never falling. It is about ensuring the gap is never empty for more than a second. The desert doesn't care about your name. It doesn't care about your brand, your ego, or the story you've been telling yourself about why you're special. In the eyes of the sand, a single grain is nothing, but the storm is everything. You have been struggling because you've been trying to be the grain of sand that stands out. You've been trying to be the hero who never tires, the special one who never fails. But heroes are mortal. Heroes are fragile. Heroes eventually break. The Persian immortal knew better. He knew that true power is found in the architecture of the inevitable. By adopting the protocol of the eternal line, you are trading your fragile uniqueness for unbreakable consistency. You have the faceless mask to kill your temperamental ego. You have the wicker shield to weave your daily habits into a fortress. And you have the law of the eternal replacement to ensure that no failure ever stops your march for more than a second. The world will try to lure you back into being special. It will tempt you with the dopamine of being noticed and the comfort of your own moods. It wants you to be a single point of failure because a single point is easy to break. Don't give it the satisfaction. Step into the footprint. Put on the mask. Become the number that cannot be subtracted. Welcome to the 10,000. You are watching Hypothetics. Stay constant. Stay immortal. The line moves on. Look at your life. Really look at it. You were biologically engineered for the hunt, for the high-stakes pressure of the shield wall, and for the white-hot intensity of the forge. Your ancestors survived the crushing frost of the north and the brutal chaos of the battlefield. But today, your greatest battles are fought in rows of a spreadsheet, and your enemies are passive-aggressive emails sent from climate-controlled offices. Do you feel that heat in your chest? That simmering, jagged pressure that makes your pulse thrum in your ears when the world demands you stay quiet? Modern society has 1,000 names for it. They call it anxiety. They call it stress. They tell you to breathe, to meditate it away, to be professional, and to suppress it until you are a hollowed-out, compliant shell of a man. They want you toothless and predictable, because a man who has extinguished his inner fire is a man who is easy to manage. But that heat isn't a malfunction. It's not a disease. It is Odir, the divine madness of the Northmen. It is raw, unrefined power that has nowhere to go. When you bury that fire, it doesn't just go out. It turns inward. It becomes a slow-moving poison that rots your ambition, kills your drive, and leaves you in a state of functional burnout, dead inside while your body keeps going through the motions. The Vikings didn't try to cure their rage. They didn't apologize for their intensity. They built a cage for it. They mastered the art of transmutation, the ability to take the very fire that would burn their own house down and funnel it into the furnace of a ship to drive it through a storm. They knew that rage, when aimless, is a riot, but rage, when channeled, is a revolution. You don't need a vacation. You don't need to relax and watch more television. You need a target. You need to stop letting your spirit rot in a cage of politeness and start burning with a terrifying singular purpose. You need to learn how to lock the beast in the cage, point it at a goal, and let it scream. This is Hypothetics. Today, we stop fighting the fire. We choose it. Quote 1. The wolf is kept for the day of battle. Norse proverb. Your frustration is not a flaw. It is a weapon currently sitting in a sheath. Most men waste their high-octane energy on traffic and petty arguments. Save the bite for the battle that actually changes your life. Train the wolf, keep it hungry, and wait for the line that needs breaking. Quote 2. Fire is the test of gold, adversity of strong men. Seneca. You aren't being crushed, you're being smelted. Gold only becomes pure by enduring a heat that would turn anything lesser into ash. Stop trying to lower the temperature of your life. Find out what remains of you when the dross is finally gone. Quote 3. A coward believes he will live forever if he keeps from fighting. The Havamal. Playing it safe is the fastest way to a slow death. You think avoiding stress is preserving your life, but it's actually rotting your soul. If you're going to burn out, do it on the front lines, not in the back of the line waiting for permission. Quote 4. The soul is dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. If you view your rage as a mental health problem, it will become a poison. If you view it as combat energy, it becomes your propellant. Stop thinking like a victim and start dyeing your mind in the iron and bronze of a warrior. Quote 5. Fate leads the willing and drags the reluctant. Seneca. The chaos of the world is moving whether you like it or not. You can either grab an oar and row with your anger or be dragged across the jagged rocks of regret. Choose to be the one who steers the storm. Quote 6. The power of the mind is to be unconquerable. Seneca. The cage is built of discipline, not brick and mortar. Your functional burnout is a symptom of a mind that has surrendered to its environment. Rebuild the walls of your focus and refuse to let the world have your spirit. Quote 7. Better to die with honor than live with shame. Saga of the Volsungs. There is no greater exhaustion than the shame of living a mediocre life when you know you are a powerhouse. Stop apologizing for your ambition and muting your voice to fit the room. It is better to burn brightly than to flicker out in the shadows of what if. Quote 8. He who is brave is free. Seneca. Fear is the lock on your cage. You aren't stuck because of the economy. You are stuck because you are afraid of your own heat. Break the lock by acting while you are still burning. Quote 9. The obstacle is the way. Marcus Aurelius. The very thing that angers you is the whetstone for your blade. The friction of your struggle is not a wall, it is the spark that starts the forge. Use the difficulty as a ladder to reach the heights the comfortable will never see. Quote 10. A man's own hand is most to be trusted. Norse proverb. Stop waiting for a guru or a boss to save your energy. No one is coming to give you permission to be powerful. Trust your own instincts, pick up your own shield, and build your own world. Quote 11. Stand by your own trials. The Havamal. No one is coming to carry your pack or fight your internal wars. Harden your shoulders until the weight of the world feels like nothing. Your suffering is not a tragedy. It is your training ground. Quote 12. It is a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness. Seneca. Smooth paths only make for weak men who trip at the first pebble. Give thanks for the thorns in the rocks. They keep you awake and sharp. The climb is where you find the fire that defines you. Quote 13. Despise the things that please the crowd. Seneca. The crowd wants you sedated, manageable, and calm. The berserker's cage demands you stay hungry, wild, and focused. Never be satisfied with a life that doesn't challenge your core. Quote 14. The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable. Seneca. A berserker lives only in the moment of the strike. Stop agonizing over a tomorrow that hasn't arrived and put all your heat into the task right in front of you. Win the second you're in, and the future will take care of itself. Quote 15. Where the wolf's ears are, the wolf's teeth are near. Norse proverb. If you can see the problem, you are close enough to kill it. Stop overanalyzing the why and start executing the how. Hunt your obstacles with a relentless, singular focus. Quote 16. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Seneca. The phalanx is only as strong as the man to your left. If your circle fears the fire in your eyes, find a new tribe that respects the flame. Surrounding yourself with weakness will only quench your drive. Quote 17. No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. Seneca. Without a war to fight, a warrior rots from the inside out. If your life is hard, it is a sign that you are still a player in the game. Use the friction of the world to keep yourself warm. Quote 18. Wisdom is welcome wherever it comes from. Norse proverb. Even your darkest failures are instructors if you are willing to listen. Listen to the sting of defeat to learn where your armor is thin. A berserker grows stronger by analyzing his own wounds, not by ignoring them. Quote 19. Small is the spirit that is crushed by a little weight. Seneca. You aren't being crushed by your responsibilities. You are simply currently untrained for the load. Pick up the weight and refuse to put it down until your spirit expands to match it. Strength is the only cure for a heavy world. Quote 20. Gold is tried by fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. Sirach. This is the final gate where you decide who you are. The fire is here, the target is set, and the cage is open. Step into the furnace and come out forged in iron. The world has enough calm men. It has enough people who have traded their fire for a paycheck and their spirit for a sense of safety that doesn't actually exist. You were never meant to be one of them. The heat you're feeling right now isn't something to be cured. It's the energy required to build the life you actually want. If you leave it aimless, it will eat you alive. If you give it a direction, it will make you dangerous to your own limitations. Build the cage to find the target, and for the love of your ancestors, stop apologizing for being the strongest version of yourself. This has been Hypothetics. If this message found the wolf in you, hit the like button and show the algorithm that there is still a demand for iron in a world of plastic. Drop a comment below with the words, "Choose the fire," to let me know you're done rotting and ready to start burning with purpose. It tells me who is actually in the arena and who is just watching from the stands. Subscribe to join the line. We have more work to do. Until the next battle, hold the line.